Okay, so as we mentioned, today is Rosh Chodesh Av. It's the first day of Av, the month of Av. The month of Av is a month of sadness. It's a month of mourning, but it's a month that's also going to be changed. It's going to be transformed into something positive. Even the day of Tisha B'Av, which is the saddest day of a calendar, is the day that is actually going to be the birthday of Mashiach, it says. So the seed of Mashiach is born on that day. And that's really, as we're going to see, how we look at exile in general. So it's the sadness is there. We, of course, keep the mourning, keep the laws of mourning, and we'll talk about what that is. But the idea is that we're changing it. Things are changing, and there's a reason for it, and we're transforming the negativity into something positive. That is the idea of this time period. It's not sadness for sadness' sake. It's sadness, but with the realization that things are changing, things are transforming, and that transformation is going to be an awesome transformation. Okay, so first of all, during this time period, we have the 9 days, which we spoke last time about the 3 weeks that we're in, the Bein HaMitzorim, the period of constriction. And we said just like constriction, at the end of it is like this big opening, where this big spritz of revelation, so too the 9 days becomes even more the intense mourning until the day of Tisha B'Av, the 9th day of Av. And even the 10th of Av, the morning of the 10th of Av, this was the time period when the temple was still being destroyed, it was still in flames. So until the morning of the 10th, we still keep the customs of this time period. What are the customs of this time period? So first of all, we do not celebrate. We don't eat meat during this time, except on Shabbat. We don't drink wine, except again on Shabbat. Shabbat is a time when it is a festive time. We don't have any signs of mourning. If someone's if someone's in mourning, it's sitting Shiva. The time period, it all stops for Shabbat. And the same is here, the 9 days. During the time of Shiva, we don't have any kind of mourning. During the 9 days, no mourning during this time period. Any time that there is a celebration that's a mitzvah celebration, like bar mitzvah, if it's celebrated, or a siyum. A siyum is when you finish learning a tractate of Torah, and they would make a siyum, then you could have the meat at that time. There is the celebration. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe actually said we should try to make as many of these siyumim, as many of these happy occasions, because the time period is sad. We need to infuse it with the happiness, with some of the celebrations, but only for the sake of a mitzvah. We don't bathe or swim for the sake of pleasure during this time. If it's just, to clean yourself or to rinse off yourself, that's a different story, but we don't do it for the sake of pleasure. These are the things that we do not do. We don't buy new clothing during this time unless it's this, there's going to be a loss, a tremendous sale or something, then you're allowed to. Seriously, that's what it says, yes. That's the exception. But we don't do it unless, again, it's for a mitzvah. During this time period, we are allowed to have engagements or even weddings. We don't push off. We're such a nation that we love celebrations for a mitzvah, but we would just do more of the celebration afterwards. So you could get married or engaged during this time, but the celebration part would be afterwards. Okay, so that's the different customs of this time. Now it's interesting that this coming Shabbat is actually called, we're going to be reading in the Torah Parshas Devarim, and it's also called Shabbat Chazon, which means a Shabbat of a vision, because the Haftarah, we always read a Torah portion, and we also read a portion from the prophets afterwards. The prophets section is about Chazon Yeshayahu, the vision of Yeshayahu. And the vision of Yeshayahu is all about the vision of the destruction of the temple. So it's again a sad thing that we're reading. However, like as Hasidim, we always try to see the positive in things. And Rabbi Levi Yitzchak of Berditchev, who was a great Hasidic rabbi, gave an example to this time. What is Shabbat Chazon? He says it's a Shabbat of vision. What is the vision? There's a vision that is being shown to each and every one of us on that Shabbat. And the vision is a vision of the third temple being rebuilt. So in other words, he's taking the Shabbat Chazon from Chazon Yeshayahu, from the vision of Yeshayahu, which all was about negativity, the destruction. He's saying, what are we all really? Another, according to the inner meaning of Torah, why is it called Shabbat Chazon? The secrets of Torah tells us that this is a Shabbat where we're all given a vision. And what is the vision that we're given? A vision of the rebuilding of the third temple is given to each and every one of us. Now you might say, hold on, I never saw it. Right? Like, where is it? And the point of the vision is to awaken us, to remind us that there's going to be this positive thing happening. That this is all part of the rebuilding. And to encourage us, if this is part of the rebuilding, we want to be encouraged to do positive things. You don't need to be encouraged from the negativity. You could be encouraged from the positivity, from the thinking that this is something positive that's going to happen. So if this is supposed to encourage us, then why aren't we seeing it? Did you see it? I'm saying that we all saw it, but maybe we didn't see it, or some of us didn't see it. So I think most of us didn't see it. But the idea is that our soul sees it. It's a message that our soul is given. Our soul sees this vision, and our soul is awakened from that vision, and we can be sensitive to that. And sometimes you're given a message. Your soul is given a message. There are times when you might wake up and say, today I think I'm going to do something great, something really positive, something stirring in me to really connect to God. I feel this connection today. Where's that coming from? Where's that feeling that you just had coming from? Where's this awakening coming from? Where's this feeling of, today I'm going to make up between, that friend that I haven't spoken to in years. I really have to do something about it. Or today I'm going to rectify the relationship that I had with a family member. Where's that feeling coming from? It's coming from our soul. So there are these feelings that come from our soul that awaken us and that tell us something. And this is really the idea of Shabbat Chazon, what this is. This is the Shabbat where we're given a vision of the rebuilding of the Betammikdash, and we can be a part of it. This is something that we can be in tune with. It's something that we need to remind ourselves, think about it, meditate on it, and then this can be something that is a part of our reality, and how we can change around this time period to something that is positive. Now it's interesting, Rabbi Levi Yitzchak of Berdichev says an example when he talks about this vision that we're all given. He says, this is the example that he says. He says, it's like a father who gives his son a suit of clothing, a brand new suit of clothing. And the son puts it on, he's a little kid, and he wears it and he rips it. Or he doesn't treat it properly. So the clothing is ruined. So the father orders a new set of clothing to be made for the son. And in the olden days, you didn't just go to, to the department store and get it. It was like a big deal to order this new suit of clothing. And again, he puts it on his son, and again, the son rips it. So after that, the father says, from now on, I'm not going to give you the actual suit, but I'm going to show it to you. Every so often, I'm going to take it out of the closet, and I'm going to show it to you, and I'm going to show you that this is your suit. This is something that I want to give you. As soon as you're ready to wear it properly, this is something that you will be given. And that's the idea of Shabbat Chazon, that God gives us this vision of the temple, and he says, this is the vision of the temple. The first temple was destroyed because of our deeds. The second temple was again destroyed because of our deeds. But we're working, we're rebuilding ourselves from the bottom up. And we're working to merit to actually wear this suit of clothing. And this suit of clothing is not something that will ever be destroyed. This is the eternal Betammikdash that will remain for all times. And this is the idea of God giving us that vision. Now, if we look at this example, it's interesting that Reb Levi Yitzchak takes the example of a suit of clothing. He doesn't take the example of a house or a room, which really should be, because the Beit HaMikdash was a house. It was the house of God, not a suit of clothing. But when we look at a house, as much as this house is so much your expression of you in this house, and how it's decorated and all the little knickknacks and everything.
My mom, but
Okay, well, your mom's, okay, as much as it is, but a person's in a house, it's something that encompasses, it's around us. It's not something that's right on top of us. A piece of garment is something that you actually wear. And because it's actually something that you wear so close to you, it also shows a lot of personalization in how you wear it and who you are. It expresses a lot of yourself. And the reason why Reb Levi Yitzchak gave the example of this suit of clothing that is worn is because the idea of the Betammikdash is not that one size fits all. It's not just about a room that you do it at 10 by 10 and you figure it out. This room is this size and that room is that size. It's something that's fitting to each and every one of us. The idea of the Beit HaMikdash is that we're all going to express our unique individuality. Serving God is not a one size fits all. Religion is not one size fits all. If you think that religion is one size fits all, you don't belong in Judaism. That's not what Judaism is. Judaism is about personalization, about each and every one of us expressing our unique parts of ourselves, our unique talents, our unique abilities, and using those unique abilities to serve God. And that's why he specifically gave the example of clothing, which is something that's really on you. Different sizes, different fits, different body shapes, have different colors, different things that suit us. This is what is going to be expressed when the Beit HaMikdash is rebuilt. So that is really the idea. Now, we say that this is the month of Av, which is the saddest month on our calendar. And the question is, if this is the saddest month, why is it called Av? What does Av mean? Father. Father. Why is it called Av? When we look at the different months of the years, why is it called Av? Like, it's the saddest month of the year. When we look at the months of the year, when we talk about Nisan is from the word nes. It's miracles. Miracles are happening. That's the month of miracles. Even the month of Tishrei, it means in Aramaic, it means beginnings. In Aramaic, not in Hebrew. It means beginnings because it's the beginning of the new year. When we look at the month of Adar, the month of Purim, it's from the word adir, strong, strength, because this is the month of that demonstrated our strength. So what does Av, Father, have to do with a month that we're memorializing the terrible destruction of the temple? And the answer is that there's nothing like a father. There's nothing like a father in terms of even when a person has strayed and even when a person did something wrong. A father knows how to correct and show direction. Unlike friends who are just always supposed to be there for you, a father is meant to instruct, to teach us, to show the direction. But the father is able to show that direction even in the punishment. You know that it's given out of love. You know that it's given because the father loves you and is doing only for your good. So a month that we're feeling, such desolation and such like this, has God left us? Has he deserted us? That's specifically the month that we need to call Av. God hasn't left us. There's a reason for this. God is a father to us. God is holding us like a father. Even when a father has to somehow turn you and show you, let's go in this direction, let's do this. This is something that only a father could look you in the eye and say, you strayed, you've done something that you need to correct, you need to make a turn, you need to swerve in your direction, but I'm here for you. I'm here with you. I feel your pain. I feel your loss. I feel what you're going through. I feel the difficulty and the challenge that you're going through, and I'm here with you. And that's what the reminder of this month is. It's a month of Av, it's a month of mourning, but God is here with us. God is suffering with us. God is feeling our pain and holding us. I was interviewing this woman who remembered that she, through her EMDR therapy, She was a woman who had a lot of different psychological challenges. First she suffered from anorexia and perfectionism, and finally it went into bipolar, and she was doing different. She was in the psych ward already twice, and this is on my podcast, Ordinary People, Extraordinary Stories. It will be actually out next week. And she was saying how she went through EMDR therapy, and through the EMDR therapy, she discovered that she was actually sexually abused as a child when she was maybe 3 years old. And the person already passed away, so it's not about getting revenge from this person. She doesn't even discuss who the perpetrator was at all. But she talks about how this had an effect. This is what caused all these traumas that first expressed itself in, and then it got more severe and more severe and more severe until finally it led to bipolar. And she was in the psych ward and all that, and she had to work through her challenges. And I said to her, like, how do you feel? She still is so connected to God. She's like, on the one hand, she believes that God does everything. There isn't anything that happens in our world without God. And if we believe that everything is happening because of God, then God is a little bit to blame because he allowed this to happen. And she says, yes, but I need God. I need God. There are moments that I feel like, God, how did you allow this to happen? But there are moments that I feel, God, I need you so much. I need you to hold me. I need you to help me to get through this. And one of the things she says she feels when she is thinking about what happened is she goes back to that episode of this man abusing her, sexually abusing her as a little kid. And she's thinking, why me? Like, why did you take away my innocence? And she has this picture of God saying to the perpetrator, this is not right. I am not okay with this. This is wrong. And it was like this dichotomy, on the one hand, allowing it to happen, not stopping it, but at the same time, this feeling of being held by God and God holding her and caressing her and saying, this is not okay. This is not okay what is happening. So I just thought that was like such an interesting image, of God holding her, and this is what actually gave her some peace, this thought that this is not okay, this is not good. I'm acknowledging what you're going through, but I'm not okay with this. We're not okay with the evil that we see around us. And unfortunately, we see a lot of evil around us, and God is saying this is not okay. God has free choice. He allows things to happen, and we can't understand why sometimes the evil is happening. But what God is really saying is this is not okay, and I am your father. I am your father, and I am feeling that pain just like you're feeling that pain. So that is really the idea of this month being the month of the Father. Because if we look at what exile is, what is exile? Exile is really this hiddenness of God. God is hiding. We don't see him. We don't feel the revelation of God. If we felt God in this world, God was revealed openly in this world, things would be perfect. Things would be the way they're supposed to be. There wouldn't be the mistakes. There wouldn't be the disharmony. There wouldn't be the different pulls. There wouldn't be the evil that's rampant all over. We would feel God's presence in this world. Galut means exile. It means the hiddenness of God. God isn't felt in this world, not by us and not by others. And that hiddenness of God allows for evil to be perpetrated because God is so hidden that we don't see him. It was interesting. I just saw this clip from Rabbi Simon Jacobson, who was saying that a scientist says to God, he says, God, now we can do everything that you do. Really? How so? God says. He says, look, we can take the earth and we can make things grow from it on our own. And God says, that's very nice, but you're taking my earth. Try it without my earth. And if we think about it, really everything in this world is God. God created everything, even our own talents, even our own abilities. We think we've done something, we've accomplished something. It's my strength, my abilities, my smartness, my brilliance that created the business deal or created this idea or this genius thing that I've accomplished. But who gave you your brilliance? Who gave you your abilities? It's all God. Everything in this world. That's why we say, "Ano milvado." There's nothing besides God in this world. It's all God's abilities. So when we look at exile, we look at it sometimes as it's a punishment for the bad that we've done. And on one level it is. It's a punishment. It says the Betammikdash was destroyed because of sinat chinam, because there wasn't this love between us, this unity between us. But we have to look deeper than that. Because you see, if exile is just something that we suffer because of the bad that we've done, then you would imagine as exile continues, it would get better because we're punished for the bad that we've done. But okay, that's it. We've been punished for it already. It should get better as time goes on, right? And instead, what do we see? It gets worse. It gets worse. It gets harder. If we look at the first exile, the exile in Egypt, they were there for 210 years in Egypt. And the hardest time period was at the end. The 86 years at the very end was when the hardship, the suffering, was the worst. From when Miriam was born, that was why she was called Miriam, from bitterness. Because the bitterness, the hardship, the way they beat them, the servitude was the most extreme during that time period, right at the end. And nowadays too, we just said, Jewish blood is so cheap. We can't even fathom, living in such a civilized country, how people could be so uncivilized in their thought process, in their way of looking at things. It boggles the mind. It is obviously something more than just what's going on there. It's obviously more than something on a more cosmic level that's going on, because how could it be that people are reacting in the way they are? And how could it be that we have people that are so on the left who are queers for Palestine? It just boggles the mind. Do you know what's going to be done to you if you were in Palestine? Here, people who are the most liberal are standing up and defending and rioting for the most fundamentalists. It just doesn't make any sense. It boggles the mind. There is no answer to it. And people just don't understand, what's going on here? It doesn't make sense. And yet, this is the darkness that we're in. This is obviously something more than just what we see going on. There's some spiritual things at work here, spiritual forces at work here. And so that's when we look at exile, we see that the darkness is so intense, and you would think it would get lighter and lighter as you go. We're going towards the redemption. It should be lighter now because we're right here at the doorstep of it. And yet it's so dark. It's the darkest time. Because really galut, exile, is not about punishment. It's not about rectification of our deeds. Galut is about creation. It's about a new creation that's being born, about a new ideology forming, completely new identity forming. Let's take a house. If we were to decide to make renovations on this beautiful home, should we do that? No. In order to make those renovations, you'd have to first destroy it. First, you gut the house, you destroy it, you demolish it. You demolish the home, right? We have some real estate agent here. And when you're going through that demolishment, I remember my sister in Toronto, at one point, she decided to add a floor into her house to make it larger. And her house was nice till then, but she decided to make it nicer and bigger. And in order to do that, she had to demolish everything.
Oh, really?
Everything. And I remember her standing there, in the rooms with like the rain coming down because the whole house, and she's like, yeah, like in tears. Like this is like, you're at that point where you don't have that vision. I mean, you have it on a piece of paper, but you don't really see it. And you're thinking like what's going to be? You're destroying what you have, but it has to be destroyed in order to create something new. And in truth, this is how we are as people as well. When we're ready to move on to a new stage, when we're ready to leave the past, there's some part of us that has to be destroyed of the past in order to recreate a new self. And this is true in so many areas. If you plant a seed, how does a seed come out? The seed has to completely disintegrate and decompose in order to come forward, in order to sprout with that new, brand new, this brand new plant that's being formed in it.
With the mushroom olives having to be squashed and
Olives.
olive oil to come in.
Exactly.
Exactly.
But we really
Fresh.
see it,
Fresh.
yes, and you really see it with a plant that's sprouting into a big, beautiful thing. The seed that you're planting into the ground gets completely decomposed. Any of you did those science projects, right? Where you first have to wet the beans, right? And then the beans get swollen, and then you put it in the water, and then it completely disintegrates until this new leaves and this new plant comes out. And that is the idea of what Galut Geula is, the exile that turns into redemption. It's not about punishment. It's about something bigger being revealed to us. An example that is given in Chassidut is of a teacher who's trying to convey something to their student. And the information is something so awe-inspiring. And the teacher is trying to figure out, how can I teach this amazing topic to my students who are constricted, they're smaller in terms of what they know. And so in order to convey that information to their students, the teacher might need to stop teaching for a few minutes in order to think. The teacher's thinking in his mind, he's concentrating, he's focusing, he wants to convey this great revelation to the students, but he's trying to formulate it in a way that the student can accept it. And in order to do so, he first has to stop. And when the teacher stops or withdraws, or even a parent, you're trying to convey something to your child, and sometimes you need to find the right words, how to say it, what to say. And you're kind of asked something, and you kind of stop, and you're thinking, and it seems like you withdrew into yourself. But really, you didn't withdraw into yourself. But for the child, you're no longer present. You were talking, you were teaching, and all of a sudden, to convey this very deep understanding, you just withdrew and you're silent. But the silence is not a punishment. The silence is not a withdrawal. The silence is really there for the greatest revelation to come about. And that silence is what Galut is about. That's the silence that we're experiencing now. It's the silence. It's the hiddenness. It's that God is not here, is not apparent to us. So why do we need that? Because just look at the seed. The seed, in order to bring out the essence of the seed has to completely decompose to create this new self. And only once it decomposes can this new being come out. And similarly, it's exile. What does it do to us? My son was telling me, he's in Israel right now, and I'm, to be honest, I wish you'd get back as soon as possible. I'm going to be honest, you know. And he's telling me, Ma, it is such a special time to be here. He's supposed to be returning tomorrow night, leave Israel, which is be here the next day, Wednesday morning. And I'm like, oh, Shpilkas, can't wait till he gets back as soon as possible, right? Because we all know what's going on there, right? And he's saying, you don't understand, the atmosphere here is just so incredible. It's such a special time to be here. He's like, I wish I could just, he tried to postpone his ticket so he could stay even longer. He said he just couldn't. Hillel was just said, we're totally booked, there's no way. And I'm like, yeah, good, I'm glad you got it. To be honest, I'm a mother. But he's saying to me, Ma, the atmosphere is, everyone's so united. They're united in who they are. They're proud of who they are. And he showed me this picture of them dancing in the shuk, everyone dancing together, singing, Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael, this feeling of who we are. Unfortunately, sometimes it only comes out in the most difficult moments. It only comes out when we're threatened. When someone threatens your identity, you realize, this is worth it. This is who I am. This is my essence. They're trying to destroy me. I'm not going to allow it because this is who I am. And you don't even realize this on a regular basis. You might not even be in tune with who you are on a regular basis because you're just not in tune with that innermost part of who you are. But when someone threatens you, that's when it comes out. It's almost like a child, with a child, the kid is misbehaving and you're ready to kill the child. Someone else says something about your child, all of a sudden the fierce lioness comes out and you're, my kid, this is what you're saying about my kid? How dare you, right? The lioness comes out and there's no way, because that is what evokes that true love, that true bond, that true connection. So what is the purpose of exile? The purpose of exile is to bring out in us that essence of what we are. The outside decomposes. The outside, the external parts of what we are, it decomposes. But what's left is that essence that we are Am Yisrael. We are the nation of God. We are connected to God. We are who we are. We are the nation that God has chosen. And that essence comes out sometimes only in the darkest of situations. And that is the point of really what exile is really all about. And this brings me to something about the way the Betammikdash was made. So it's very interesting when it talks about the Betammikdash that was made. It was made by, the first Betammikdash was built by, anyone know? King Shlomo HaMelech, King Solomon, son of David. David wasn't allowed to do it because he was a man of war, and God says a man of war can't build my home, which is a home of peace. But Shlomo HaMelech, his son, built the Beit HaMikdash. He built it in the Hebrew year 2928, and it lasted for 410 years. That was the first destruction of the Beit HaMikdash, which was 3338, which we still suffer from today. 70 years later, the second Beit HaMikdash was built, and that lasted for 420 years. Now, when Shlomo HaMelech built the first Beit HaMikdash, this was the home of God. And you might wonder, how is it that God's home could be destroyed? So how is it that God's home could be destroyed? Because God allowed it to be destroyed. God had in his vision that this home would be destroyed. But when Shlomo HaMelech built that Beit HaMikdash, there was two places for the Aron. The Aron is the part of the Beit HaMikdash that contains the Ten Commandments, the Luchot. It's the Luchot HaBrit. It's the holiest thing of the Beit HaMikdash. This is where the Shekhinah, the God's divine presence, comes out. When he built the Beit HaMikdash, the Aron is in the Kodesh HaKodashim, the holiest of holiest places. That's where it always is. However, there was a secret place that Shlomo HaMelech built for where the Aron was going to be hidden. He built a place in the Beit HaMikdash for where it's supposed to be, in the Kodesh HaKodashim. That's where it's always going to be. That's its revealed location. But he also built another secret location deep down in the tunnels underneath. And it's this place that the Aron would be hidden in times where it would be dangerous for it to be on the outside. Now, interestingly, it says that in the time of King Yoshiyahu, which was 22 years before the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash, King Yoshiyahu took the Aron and he put it in these underground tunnels. It stayed there during the exile that we went to for the Babylonian exile for 70 years. It stayed there during the time when they rebuilt the second Betammikdash. And for the entire time when the second Betammikdash was built for 420 years, that Aron was in those tunnels underneath, which means, and it stays there till today, it's still in those underground tunnels, which means that the place of God's presence, the place of the holiest place of God's, the Aron, is still there. The second Betammikdash was just a manifestation of the first Betammikdash, because it was a continuation of those very same, the holiest place, the Aron was still there. And till today, God's presence is still there. It's hidden. We don't know where it is. It's in some winding tunnels underneath the ground, but it is still there. And what this means for us is that there's really two locations for where the Aron could be. There's the open place, the revealed place, the place in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the holiest of holies. This is the revealed place where God's presence is felt. And when it is there, God's presence is very much felt in our world. We feel God's revelation. We feel God's oneness. We feel the holiness. But there's another place where it is meant to be as well. And this is deep down in the tunnels underneath, where they still are now. The message for us from these tunnels is that there are times when we would like that things be very straight, very open, very revealed, very obvious to us. When right and wrong should be so obvious, when we feel God's presence in this world, when we feel what's right, what's wrong, when we feel holiness, when we feel it, we want that time period. But there's another location that was also meant, and those are in the deep down tunnels underneath. And those tunnels are windy. To get there, it's very windy, and they're underground, and we don't know where they are. But they're there for us to actually find and to locate. There are times in our lives when we have things very straight, very clear. We know what we're meant to do, and that's great. We feel God's presence. We feel that our life's mission is very much in conformance with what God wants us to do. But there's another path that's equally valid, and that's the path of the windy tunnels. And that path is a path that we don't always like to go. It's hidden. We don't like to follow that path. But that's an equally valid path. And what's needed from us is to realize that sometimes we need to follow those windy tunnels in our lives. And sometimes our path in life is difficult. It's windy. We don't see the light. We don't feel the light. We don't understand why things are happening. It feels like such darkness. But we need to remember, even when it feels like such darkness and such difficulty, there's God's presence there. That's a holy place. And if we could remember that, and we could see purpose in what we're doing, we see that the descent is for the sake of the greatest asset, the greatest revelation. And that is why, by the way, this week's Torah portion is Parshas Devarim, which is Moshe speaking. He's talking to the Jewish people. The whole Sefer Devarim, the whole book of Devarim, is all about Moshe's farewell to the Jewish people. And if you look at the first 4 books of the Torah, it's all about God speaking to the children of Israel. It's all about written in third person. When you look at the book of Devarim, it's about Moshe speaking, and he's speaking first person. He's saying, I'm speaking to you. And it's all being transmitted through Moshe. And the reason for this is because we are now entering, the Jewish people are entering the land of Israel. They're entering the land which is going to lead to an exile. And Moshe's trying to say to them, this is how we make things personal. It's not about a third person, God speaking in a third person. This is about me speaking to you. This is about me telling you. That is what exile does for us. It makes things personal. It makes our relationship with God a personal relationship where we can feel that relationship, where we need to look for that relationship, sometimes through these winding tunnels, and it feels like we're going nowhere, and it feels like such darkness, but that is how we make the relationship our own. And that is really the benefit, the advantage of this exile That's the advantage of this time period. The point of this 9 days, the point of the 3 weeks, the point of Tisha B'Av is not just sadness and, oh, we're remembering the past. The point is that we're finding who we are. We're finding our strength. And we're seeing this now more than ever in the situation that we find ourselves in Israel. This is how we are showing what Am Yisrael is, the strength of our people, the strength of our nation, the strength of each and every one of us, that we're holding on despite the darkness, despite feeling like we're completely decomposing, like we're completely disintegrating, but it's bringing out, it's giving birth to something far greater. And may we actually see it in reality, not just know what's happening, but may we actually see the plant sprout. May we actually see those tunnels that contain the luchot come to life and bring it to its proper place in its revealed location. May we feel that revelation, not just know it's there, but may we actually feel it. And may the process finally no longer need to be a process, but may we actually see it in actual reality.
Amen.
Amen.